An empire fell in exactly 53 days. One single city changed history forever, and the world's absolute strongest walls finally broke.
Welcome to this explainer on the fall of Constantinople in 1453. We're going to see exactly how this one city's collapse brought a highly violent end to an empire that had stood for a millennium and completely rewrote global military history.
Let's jump right into the story. And hey, if you enjoy historical explainers like this, definitely consider subscribing so you don't miss our future deep dives. Okay, Section 1, a fading ancient empire. Now, to really grasp this event, you have to realize that by 1453, Constantinople was not the thriving metropolis it used to be. It had been the impregnable Roman capital for over 11 centuries, sure, but now it was exhausted. The Black Death had wiped out almost half its population, and years of decline had reduced this once massive city to just a series of sparsely populated walled villages separated by empty fields. They were basically just hiding behind their ancient towering walls. Section 2, 2 leaders, 2 armies. This whole conflict really comes down to a stark contrast between two very different leaders. On one side, you've got the Ottoman Sultan, Mehmed II. Get this, he was only 19 years old, super ambitious, aggressively expanding his territory, and brilliantly using friendly diplomacy as a tactical mask for his ruthless goals. Facing him is Emperor Constantine XI. He's leading a desperate, heavily outnumbered defense, carrying the weight of a fading ancient empire, and knowing full well this is likely their final stand. And just look at this massive disparity in military might. It is literally terrifying. Mehmed brings an Ottoman force of about 100,000 men, roughly 110 naval ships, and over 70 advanced cannons. Constantine? He's got fewer than 8,000 defenders to guard 12 miles of perimeter walls, and that includes foreign volunteers. They had just 26 ships and a handful of small artillery pieces that actually damaged their own ancient walls from the massive recoil when they tried to fire them.
Section 3, Cannons against ancient walls.
This is where military history shifts forever. For 800 years, the legendary 5th century Theodosian walls protected the city from the west. These were some of the most advanced, undefeated defensive systems in the entire world. But Mehmed showed up with something entirely new: massive gunpowder bombards. The real game changer here comes down to one number: 600. Mehmed hired a Hungarian engineer named Orban to build an absolute monster of a cannon called Basilica. This thing was 27 feet long. It took 60 oxen and over 400 men just to drag it to the city. When they fired it, it launched a 600-pound stone ball over a mile. It literally shattered stone defenses that had stood for centuries. The world had just never seen destructive force like this before.
But Mehmed wasn't just relying on brute force. He was incredibly methodical. Before the siege even started, he laid the groundwork by building a massive fortress right on the Bosphorus Strait. He actually named it Boğaz Kasen, which translates to the throat cutter. And it did exactly that. It completely choked off Constantinople's vital sea traffic, suffocating the city and cutting off any hope of aid from the north.
Section 4, the 53-day siege.
So, with the city choked off and the cannons in place, the clock starts ticking. The siege officially kicks off on April 6th. And remarkably, throughout April, the Byzantine defenders actually held their own against the relentless bombardment. They repulsed naval blockades and incredibly costly frontal assaults, creating a bloody stalemate that lasted all the way until May 21st, when Mehmed finally issued an ultimatum.
Now, you might be wondering how the defenders survived those early naval attacks. Well, Emperor Constantine used something called the Great Chain of the Golden Horn. It was exactly what it sounds like: a massive iron chain floating on wooden logs, stretched right across the harbor mouth. It effectively blocked Turkish ships from getting in and attacking the weaker seawalls, which kept a tiny, vital sliver of hope alive for the city. On the land side, the defense was brilliantly commanded by a Genoese specialist named Giovanni Giustiniani. It was a frantic daily struggle. The Ottoman cannons would blow massive holes in the walls during the day, and at night, a meager mix of soldiers, armed civilians, and literally monks would rush to repair the breaches. Against all odds, they pushed back wave after wave of elite Ottoman janissaries, refusing to break. Section 5. The final fatal assault. On May 21st, Mehmed offered to lift the siege if they just surrendered. Emperor Constantine's response is absolutely chilling, and it set the fatal stakes for the rest of the battle. He basically told the Sultan, "As to surrendering the city to you, we have reached the mutual decision to die of our own free will without any regard for our lives." There was no going back now.
Knowing the defenders were completely exhausted, Mehmed launched an all-out offensive just after midnight on Tuesday, May 29th. It came in 3 relentless waves. First, he sent in poorly equipped irregular Azeps just to tire out the defenders. Then, Anatolian Turkmen forces aggressively pushed into the breaches. Finally, as the Byzantine lines wavered, Mehmed unleashed his absolute best. The elite Janissaries swarmed the city in an overwhelming final wave.
And right at this critical moment, tragedy strikes the defenders. Giustinian, their brilliant commander, is grievously wounded. Seeing him evacuated from the ramparts sparks total panic among the ranks. The defense completely crumbles, allowing the Ottomans to pour into the streets as Emperor Constantine falls in battle. After 53 grueling days, the city falls.
Section 6. Dawn of a New Era. The immediate aftermath was brutal. Following the customs of the time, roughly 30,000 citizens were forced into slavery. Mehmed claimed the legendary city as his new capital, riding straight into the Grand Basilica of the Hagia Sophia to claim its magnificent structures for himself, permanently extinguishing the Byzantine Empire in the region.
So, what does this all mean? Well, this isolated 53-day siege officially ended the 1,500-year Roman Empire and essentially closed the book on the Middle Ages. But more importantly, with the Ottomans now controlling the main east-west trade routes, a panicked Europe had to look for new maritime paths to Asia. This directly sparked the age of exploration and violently ushered in the early modern period of military history. Think about it. Ancient, supposedly impenetrable walls had literally just been rendered obsolete overnight by massive cannons. The old rules of war were dead. So, with medieval defenses shattered, how would the rest of the world adapt to the terrifying dawn of modern warfare? Thank you for watching this explainer, and keep questioning the past.